And welcome back. We're pleased to be joined today by the congressman who represents Wisconsin's 7th District, Representative Sean Duffy. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Tom.
You know, it's interesting since redistricting, your district now comes down and includes much of the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota, from Hudson all the way up to Superior, Wisconsin. So you're representing some new turf.
I am. So we have St. Croix County is new to our district, so it makes it a little more challenging to touch and reach people on the media front, but we're happy to have the county. It's great. And we have that whole northern border. Of
interest to many viewers in Wisconsin and Minnesota, the Farm Bill. House Republicans took kind of a controversial step in that they split the food stamp program out of ag and has the agriculture legislation standing on its own. The Senate, it sounds like, is going to have nothing to do with that.
That's right. But first of all, we tried to pass a comprehensive farm bill, which had the farm portion of the farm bill and the food stamp portion of the farm bill. We didn't get any Democrat votes. So to try to move the legislation forward and actually get something done in the House, Chairman Lucas had to think outside the box, and that was to say, okay, we're going to do something historic. We're going to separate them and see if we can pass each on their own now. Farm bill by itself and the food stamp portion by itself. And frankly, the farm portion of the farm bill passed, and Chairman Lucas has made a commitment to try to now pass the SNAP portion of the farm bill.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you voted in favor of the first attempt.
I did.
Right? That would have included some significant cuts to the SNAP program, or the food stamp program. But since that path wasn't going to work, you decided this. You went along with this and also voted for this one.
Listen, we have to be clear, though, on the SNAP portion. I mean, we spend $80 billion a year on food stamps. Over 10 years, we were cutting $21 billion. I voted to cut $30 billion. I mean, so it was a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot more reform that needs to be done. This program has quadrupled in spending over the last 10 years. But I'm one who says, listen, if we can do the right reform and take steps in the right direction, let's get behind it. The problem was our friends across the aisle said, listen, this was too radical of a step to cut basically 2% over 10 years, and they voted no on it. And they've complained now that we've separated the bill. But frankly, had they jumped behind the complete farm bill last month, we would have had a package done and could have sent it to the Senate.
Lost in all of this is that there are significant reforms in the ag portion of the farm bill, including essentially almost an end to the direct subsidies, the payments to farmers. Is that long overdue? There has been a long history of very wealthy farmers collecting millions of dollars through the Farm Bill.
Absolutely. So I thought that was a great reform in the farm portion of the Farm Bill, stopping those direct payments, moving to an insurance program. That's positive. We had a great debate on supply management in dairy. That's big for us over in Wisconsin.
Just to switch gears here in our limited amount of time, you favor an immigration bill that would allow a path toward legal status in this country for people who might be here illegally right now, but not a path to citizenship. Why is that?
Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that immigration and the immigration system is broken, and we have to be part of a solution that will actually fix immigration, not just for 15 or 25 years. We want to fix it in the long run. And I think you have to have a balance. We have to treat people who have come here without documentation fairly, but we also have to have some respect for the laws that we've had in this country. And so what my opinion is, first, we have to secure the border, number one, and truly secure it and verify that security. And once you do that, you can offer those who have come here without documentation a legal status, which means they're not going to be arrested at night, they're not going to be separated from their families, they're not going to be shipped back home. They can actually stay in the country with like a work visa, a long-term work visa, but they're not going to be able to vote, and they're not going to be able to collect off our entitlement system. If they want to apply for citizenship, we're not going to create a new pathway for them to become citizens, but they can actually apply in the current system that we have. And I think that's a nice way to balance those who've come here to meet our economic needs, but haven't done it the right way.
Are you concerned that with the growing Hispanic population and the growing number of Hispanic voters, that with Republicans, in the view of many, dragging their feet on immigration reform, that you run the risk of alienating those voters for a long time?
Listen, I think if you talk about ideas that and the reasons why they've come to this country, they believe in a lot of the same principles that we believe in, and it's a group that we can actually win. But we have to deal with immigration as well, and we have to deal with it fairly. And I think if you ask a lot of immigrants, some might want to be citizens, but I think a lot of them would say, if you can get a package together with Republicans and Democrats and support me staying here legally, not being arrested and sent home, not being separated separated from my family, they would be very pleased with that. And so I think that's going to be the sweet spot where we can find a deal on both sides of the aisle to allow people to stay. But you can't do it unless you first fix the border, because I think most even conservatives would say, I'm willing to do this one time and let the 11 million people stay here, but I want this to be the last time.
Final issue, you are very concerned about consumer privacy. And there's been a lot of the news about Edward Snowden and the NSA and the surveillance going on of Americans' phone records. You're concerned about our financial records. Tell me about the legislation that you've introduced.
Yeah, so there's this agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's created in Dodd-Frank. It sounds great, but they're doing some things that I think consumers would not be happy with. And after Snowden and what Americans have found out about the NSA, they would be shocked to learn that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is monitoring millions of Americans' financial records, whether it's your mortgages or your credit card transactions. And they're doing this under the auspices of protecting consumers. The problem is they're collecting and keeping this data. In politics, we understand that if you want to find out where the polls are at or where people are at, you can sample data and get a very fair representation of what's happening within the political marketplace. You can do the same with financial data. They're not doing that. They're taking millions of Americans' financial data, monitoring it long-term, and keeping it in-house. I think there's a real concern for the privacy of Americans and their financial information. And we actually had a hearing on this. We were asking them about whether they would ask the permission of the consumer to garner this data, and they basically said no, because they know that American consumers don't want the government to have all this information. Phone records, email data, and now your financial data. Very concerned.
So that legislation has been introduced, and you're hoping it's going to make some headway.
Right, so I've introduced a bill that would say, listen, this agency has to ask for your permission if they want to garner, monitor, and collect your financial data.
All right, Congressman Sean Duffy, we appreciate your coming in today, and it's great to have you representing so many more of our viewers. It'll be great to have you back, hopefully on a regular basis, to update us on what's going on in Washington.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for being here, Sean. And we'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.